Before you laugh at the crooked cabin near Santa Cruz, ask yourself one question. What if the place is not bending your eyes, but bending the moment you are standing in? At the mystery spot, tourists see balls roll uphill, people lean without falling, and gravity seems to forget its own rules. But one man arrives with an old tape recorder, a missing sister, and a warning that should have been impossible. His tour begins at 4:40 p.m. And once it begins, time itself starts to tilt. There are places in the world that make people believe their own eyes have betrayed them. A crooked cabin. A ball rolling uphill. A person standing still, yet looking taller or shorter in a photograph depending on where they stand. And somewhere in the redwoods near Santa Cruz, there is a patch of forest where thousands of tourists have walked in laughing, stepped out dizzy, and said the same thing. It's just an illusion. But what if everything we call an illusion is only the brain's last defense against a truth too large to accept? What if gravity does not disappear at the mystery spot? What if it is simply pulling everything towards somewhere else? Tong did not believe in ghosts. He did not believe in haunted attractions, cursed roads, crooked cabins, or places where people claimed cars rolled uphill by themselves. He did not believe that invisible forces tugged on the living from under floorboards. To him, everything had an explanation. Light, angle, a slanted floor, a tricked horizon. A human brain desperate to make sense of bad information. He had said those words in dozens of short videos. Tong lived in San Jose and ran a small YouTube channel about strange locations across America. His videos were not famous, but they earned enough to help with rent, gas, camera gear, and the occasional decent dinner. His style was simple. Visit a place with a legend, film the experience, then explain how the legend probably began. That morning, he received a message from Lynn, his ex-girlfriend. They had not spoken in nearly 2 years. The message contained only one sentence. If you still have Han's tape, don't post anything about the mystery spot. Tong stared at the words until they no longer looked like language. Han was his older sister. 17 years earlier, Han had visited the mystery spot during a college trip. After that trip, she came home different. She stopped sleeping in dark rooms. She refused to stand near mirrors. She never sat with her back to a door. 3 weeks later, she disappeared. No goodbye note. No security footage. No sign of a kidnapping. Only an old tape recorder was found in the trunk of her car. Inside it was a damaged. Tong had listened to it hundreds of times. On the tape, Han was breathing hard. Her voice shook so badly it barely sounded human. Don't follow the cabin. Don't trust the floor. If you see someone standing straight in there, that person is no longer in the same direction as you. Then came the sharp groan of wood. Something rolled across the floor. Han whispered one final sentence. Something is keeping us from falling. The recording ended with Han screaming Tong's name. For 17 years, Tong had told himself his sister had suffered a breakdown, run away, and vanished somewhere on her own. It was the only explanation that let him keep living. But Lynn's message dragged the past back into the room. He called her immediately. She did not answer. 10 minutes later, she sent another message. I saw her in your photo. The picture arrived beneath the text. It was an old promotional photograph of the mystery spot. A small group of tourists stood near the famous crooked cabin. A guide pointed toward the roof. Behind them, tall redwood trees rose straight into gray afternoon light. At first, Tong did not understand what Lin wanted him to see. Then he zoomed in. Break time equals 0. 6s/. At the far left edge of the image, beneath the cabin's porch, a woman stood half-hidden in shadow. Faded denim jacket. Shoulder-length hair. A silver bracelet shaped like a maple leaf on her left wrist. Tong's body went cold. He had given Han that bracelet for her birthday the year she disappeared. The photograph had been taken 3 days ago. The next morning, Tong drove from San Jose towards Santa Cruz. On the passenger seat sat his camera, a microphone, a flashlight, a small level, a compass, and Han's old tape recorder. He told no one where he was going. Late October in California was not truly cold, but the closer he got to Santa Cruz, the thicker the fog became. Trees stood along the road like dark pillars. The sky narrowed between their branches. When the sign for the mystery spot appeared, a weight settled inside his chest. He had been there once as a child. It was the last family trip before Han disappeared. He remembered only broken images. Wet earth. A crooked wooden building that made his mother nauseous. A tour guide joking that gravity had gotten drunk. And Han standing alone near the edge of the path, staring into the space between 2 redwood trunks. When their father asked what she was looking at, Han answered, "Someone is walking down." But in front of her, the trail went up. Tong parked in the visitor lot, grabbed his backpack, and walked toward the entrance. In daylight, the mystery spot did not look frightening. There were families with children, couples taking pictures, groups of students laughing, a gift shop selling t-shirts, mugs, stickers, and magnets. Everything looked ordinary. That was what unsettled him most. A place that had swallowed his sister was still selling tickets. Still making people laugh. Still turning dread into a souvenir. Tong bought a ticket for the last tour of the day. The girl at the counter wore a green cap and had the practiced smile of someone who had said the same sentence 1,000 times. When she handed him the ticket, her eyes briefly dropped to the old tape recorder visible inside his backpack. Her smile faltered. "Have you been here before?" she asked. "A long time ago. Then you remember the rules?" "What rules?" She lowered her voice. "Stay with the group. Don't separate from the guide. Don't go behind the cabin after closing." Tong frowned. "Do people do that often?" The girl did not answer right away. She looked past him toward the trees. "Sometimes people think they hear someone calling." Tong wanted to ask more, but another visitor stepped up behind him. He took the ticket and moved aside. Printed across it was the tour time. 4:40 p.m. Tong stopped breathing for a second. That was the same time stamped on Han's tape. The tour began with 12 people. A family of 4. 2 young couples. 3 college students filming on their phones. Tong. And a middle-aged man traveling alone, wearing a brown coat and holding a wooden cane. Their guide was named Maya. She had a bright voice and the confidence of someone who knew how to turn the strange into entertainment. "Welcome to the mystery spot," Maya said. "The place where you will question gravity, your balance, and maybe your decision to buy a ticket." The group laughed. Tong did not. He turned on his camera. Maya led them along a trail through the redwoods. The trees rose so high that the evening light fell in thin, broken shafts. The air was cooler beneath the canopy. As they approached the crooked cabin, Tong felt pressure build inside his ears. It was not ordinary ear pressure. It felt as if the sound around him had slowed down. The students' laughter dropped in pitch. Footsteps onward grew louder. Whine through the leaves sounded like someone breathing through a wall. Then the cabin appeared. Small. Old. Tilted, as if a giant hand had shoved it sideways and left it there. Maya began the usual demonstration. She placed a ball on a board. The ball rolled uphill. A child screamed with delight. A man tried to stand straight and immediately leaned sideways. A young woman braced herself against the wall and laughed until tears came to her eyes. Tong filmed everything. He had watched enough videos to understand how the effect worked. When the floor, ceiling, walls, and horizon all leaned in different ways, the brain lost its reference points. The room did not need to break physics. It only needed to break perception. Theory was one thing. Standing inside the cabin was another. When Tong stepped onto the wooden floor, his body immediately pulled left. Not violently. Not dramatically. Steadily. As if a current of invisible water were flowing under the planks and dragging through his bones. He placed his small level on the floor. The bubble slid hard to one side. He turned the level around. The bubble slid the same way again. Tong frowned. He opened a leveling app on his phone. The numbers jumped wildly. 1 degree. 17 degrees. -4. 23. Then, for one heartbeat, the screen displayed something that was not a measurement at all. For 40. Tong froze. He blinked. The app returned to normal. Maybe he had imagined it. Break time equals 0. 6s/. Maya continued deeper into the cabin. Many people feel their bodies leaning here, she said. But their eyes insist that everything is still straight. Your body and your brain are arguing with each other. The man in the brown coat spoke from the back of the group. Not the body and the brain. Maya turned. I'm sorry. He smiled without warmth. The body and this place. The group fell quiet for a moment. Maya forced a light laugh. Sounds like you've been here before. The man did not look at her. He looked directly at Tong. Many times. But every time, I forget I came. The camera in Tong's hand suddenly felt like ice. The tour ended a little after 5:20. The tourists drifted back toward the gift shop. Maya reminded everyone not to enter restricted areas, then turned away to speak with another employee. Tong searched for the man in the brown coat. He was gone. Not lost in the crowd. Gone. 1 second he had been standing near the wooden steps. The next, only a few dry leaves twisted in the place where his shoes had been. Tong reviewed the footage. The man was there. Break time equals 0. 6s/. But his image looked wrong. Everyone else in the frame appeared normal. The man in the brown coat seemed stretched. His head subtly pulled toward his left shoulder. The shadow beneath his feet did not fall across the floor. Climbed the wall. Tong skipped to the moment when the man said he forgot each visit. The audio failed. His voice did not come from Tong's phone. It came from the old tape recorder inside Tong's backpack. Tong yanked the backpack open. Han's tape recorder was running. He was certain he had never turned it on. The tape moved slowly. Static hissed through the tiny speaker. Then a woman's voice emerged. Small. Far away. Tom. He stopped breathing. It was Han. Not from the old recording. Not from the line he had heard hundreds of times. This was new. Tong, don't point the camera at the floor. His fingers shook as he pressed stop. The tape kept moving. Tong, if you can hear me, it means I haven't finished falling. A footstep sounded behind him. Tong spun around. Maya stood a few steps away. Her guide's smile was gone. You should leave before dark, she said. Tong raised the recorder. Did you hear that? Maya looked at the device. Hear what? My sister's voice. Maya was silent for several seconds. Then she said, people hear family members here sometimes. So you know about this? No. I only know the ones who answer usually get lost. Tong stepped closer. My sister came here 17 years ago. After that, she disappeared. Maya's expression changed. What was her name? Han Tran. Maya slowly shook her head. I've never heard that name. Are you sure? I've only worked here 3 years. Then who would know? Maya looked toward the crooked cabin. There is one person. Maya led Tong behind the ticket area to a small utility room that smelled of sawdust, dust, and rain-soaked wood. An old man sat inside repairing a weathered sign. His name was Elias. He had white hair, folded skin, and strong hands with thick veins. A ring of keys hung from his belt. Maya whispered something to him. Elias looked up at Tong. The moment their eyes met, Tong felt that the old man had been waiting for him for a very long time. You brought the tape recorder, Elias said. Tong gripped the strap of his backpack. Did you know my sister? Elias did not answer. He stood and removed a small metal box from a drawer. Inside were old tickets, Polaroids, necklaces, coins, car keys, and folded scraps of yellowing paper. After a moment of searching, he took out an old student ID. Tong accepted it with trembling fingers. The photo showed Han. Younger. Brighter-eyed. Hair tied back. The name read, Han Tran. Tong's knees weakened. Where did you get this? Elias closed the box. Behind the cabin. She was here. She came back. After she disappeared? Elias looked at him. No. Before. Tong did not understand. Elias pulled out a chair. Sit down. I don't want to sit. I want to know what happened to my sister. The old man sighed. You think the mystery spot is a place that confuses direction. Most visitors think the same thing. They come in, laugh, feel dizzy, buy a sticker, and go home. For them, that is all it is. And for everyone else? For people who have lost something too heavy, Elias said, this place knows how to pull them down. Tong's fists tightened. Down where? Elias pointed toward the cabin. When the first workers built that structure, they thought they were building on a slope. But the slope was not the first thing here that was crooked. What does that mean? Elias lowered his voice. Some places on Earth are like cracks in glass. From a distance, you cannot see them. But if you place the right weight in the right spot at the right time, the crack opens. Maya, standing near the door, had gone pale. Your sister found an old recording, Elias continued. She believed there was a space under the cabin that had never been mapped. She came back after closing. I tried to stop her, but she would not listen. Where did she go? Elias looked into Tong's eyes. She followed your voice. Tong went still. My voice. She said she heard her little brother calling from beneath the floor. That's impossible. I was home. Here, Elias said. A voice does not always come from someone alive. The tape recorder in Tung's backpack clicked on by itself. Static filled the room. Then Han's voice came through, clearer than before. Don't trust him, Tong. Maya stepped back. Elias closed his eyes. Han's voice continued. He's been standing crooked too long. Tong had no choice left. He stayed. Maya objected, but Elias said, if he heard the tape, he'll come back even if we push him out the gate. Better that he goes while someone is still willing to guide him. The attraction closed at dusk. The tourists left. The gate was locked. The redwood forest became so quiet that every falling leaf sounded like a footstep behind him. Elias handed Tong a flashlight. Remember 3 things, he said. First, never call the name of someone dead unless you are sure they are standing in front of you. Second, if you see something roll uphill, do not pick it up. Third, if you feel like you are standing straight, check your shadow. Tong gave a dry, humorless laugh. You make it sound like people have ignored those rules. They have. And what happened to them? Elias looked at the floorboards of the cabin. They are still walking. The 3 of them entered the crooked cabin. Without tourists laughing, the place changed completely. By day it felt like a trick. By night it felt like a trap. Every board, beam, wall, and doorway tilted in a way that made the eye unable to decide where up ended and down began. Their flashlights swept across the walls. Their shadows stretched in impossible directions. Maya walked last, holding a radio. The radio gave only static. Elias led Tong to the rear corner of the cabin, where an old rug covered part of the floor. He pulled it back. Beneath it was a square wooden hatch with an iron ring. Tong had never seen that detail in any video about the mystery spot. Elias unlocked the latch with one of his keys. A smell rose from below, wet earth, rotten wood, and cold metal. Tong shined his flashlight down. It was not a basement. It was not a hole. A narrow staircase descended at an angle that his eyes could not properly measure. The strangest part was the dust on the steps. It did not sit still. It drifted. Slowly. Like dust suspended underwater. Where does this go? Tong asked. Elias answered, not always to the same place. Maya gripped the railing. We shouldn't go down. Elias looked at her. You can stay. Maya was silent for a moment. Then she switched on her own flashlight. I'm not letting you 2 go alone. Tong did not know whether to thank her or tell her to run. But the moment had passed. Elias went first. Tong followed. Maya came last. Above them, the wooden hatch closed by itself. No one touched it. The staircase was longer than Tong expected. They descended for at least 5 minutes, but the sounds from the cabin above did not fade the way sounds should fade with distance. Sometimes Tong heard children laughing. Sometimes he heard Maya giving a tour. Sometimes he heard his mother calling Han to dinner. He knew none of it could be real. His heart believed otherwise. The stairs ended in a small stone room. Low ceiling. No windows. No visible doors except the staircase behind them. In the center hung a metal plumb bob, the kind of tool used to find the direction of true vertical. But the plumb bob did not point toward the floor. pointed straight at the left wall. The cord stretched horizontally through the air. Maya covered her mouth. Tong stepped closer. The plumb bob trembled. Not from wind. It trembled as if something inside the wall were breathing. The stone walls were covered with carvings. Names. Dates. Short warnings. 1940. We heard them below. 1968. My father stood straight and vanished sideways. 1995. Do not answer the child. 2007. The floor remembers weight. Near the lower corner, Tong found a line carved in Vietnamese, rushed and uneven. Tong, if you can read this, do not go any farther. He knelt. The flashlight shook in his hand. It was Han's handwriting. He had kept her old letters, notes and books, birthday cards. He could not mistake it. Maya whispered behind him, "Your sister was here." Tong touched the carved words. The stone was cold as a grave. The tape recorder clicked on again. This time there was no static. Han's voice spoke right beside his ear. "You came too late." Tong spun around. In the darkest corner of the room, where Maya's flashlight did not reach, someone was standing. A woman in a faded denim jacket. Shoulder-length hair. A silver maple leaf bracelet on her left wrist. Tong could not breathe. "Han!" Maya backed into Elias. Elias shouted, "Do not say the name!" Too late. The woman in the corner lifted her face. It was Han. Not older. Not younger. Break time equals 0. 6S/. The same 24-year-old face from the student ID. Only her eyes were different. They were the eyes of someone who had seen too many directions that human beings were never meant to know. "Tong," she said, "you shouldn't have come." Tong stepped forward. Elias grabbed his shoulder. "No." Tong pulled free. "Shut up. That's my sister." Han looked at Elias. "Are you still keeping people here?" Elias said nothing. Tong looked between them. "What is happening? Where have you been for 17 years? Han looked at him for a long time. Then she said, "For me, it has only been 40 minutes. Han spoke slowly, as if every sentence had to be pulled from somewhere deeper than her throat. After the college tour, she began hearing Tong call her in her sleep. First it was vague. Then it became clear. It was always followed by knocking beneath the floor. She thought the cabin had disturbed her mind. She came back to prove it was all psychological. Elias, younger then, tried to stop her. She slipped under the cabin anyway. In this stone room, she heard Tong crying. The voice of a 10-year-old boy. Her little brother. "Han, pull me up." She found a crack in the floor. It was no wider than a well mouth. From beneath it, Tong's voice begged for help. She leaned down and saw her brother falling. Not falling down. Falling sideways through darkness. His body was being pulled toward a direction the normal world had no name for. "I reached down," Han said, "but the person in the crack was not you." Tong's skin went cold. "Who was it?" Han looked directly at him. "It was you, older than you are now," Maya gasped. Elias closed his eyes as if he had expected this. Tong shook his head. "That's impossible." Han stepped out of the corner. The flashlight hit her face. The face was real. The tears on her cheeks were real. The bracelet on her wrist was real. There is no before and after here the way there is outside, she said. Everything is tilted. Space is tilted. Time is tilted. Things that have not happened can roll toward things that already did. Things that are lost can slide back if they are heavy enough. Tong did not want to understand. But some part of him had already begun. So you're trapped here? Han nodded. With many others. The missing people? Not only missing people. Some are still alive outside. Some are dead. Some have not been born yet. This place does not keep bodies. Keeps moments. Maya whispered. What kind of moments? Han looked at the plumb bob pointing into the wall. Moments when someone refuses to accept that they are falling. The room went silent. Then footsteps came from the staircase. Not one person's footsteps. Many. Shoes. Sandals. Bare feet. From above. From below. From inside the walls. Elias aimed his flashlight at the stairs. No one was there. The footsteps kept coming. Han spoke quickly. You have to leave now. Tong grabbed her hand. I'm not leaving without you. The instant their hands touched, the entire room tilted violently. Maya screamed. The stone floor under Tung's feet rose like a wall. He fell sideways, but instead of hitting the ground, his body was dragged toward the plumb bob. The world turned over. A flashlight slipped from Maya's hand, but it did not fall. It rolled through the air and struck the wall. Tong held on to Han's wrist. She shouted, Let go! No! It doesn't want me. It wants you. Tong froze. What? Han cried as she said it. All these years, I thought I came looking for you, but it used your voice to call me down because you were the one it was waiting for. He tore. He stood beside the metal plumb bob. He had not come from the stairs. He appeared as if the room had suddenly remembered he belonged there. Maya raised her radio with a shaking hand. Only static came out. Then her own voice played from the speaker. Welcome, everyone, to the mystery spot. She dropped the radio. The man looked at Tong. You still don't recognize it? Tong clenched his teeth. Who are you? The man smiled sadly. Someone who once thought he was only here for a tour. Han stepped back. Don't listen to him. But the man continued. I came here in 1978 with my wife and daughter. My little girl heard me calling from under the floor. She followed. I went after her. Then I met myself, 30 years older, telling me not to keep going. He looked down at his hands. I thought I could break the loop. Tong asked, What loop? The man pointed at the plumb bob. Look at it. People think it points down because the earth pulls it. But what if something else pulls harder? Another place, another time, another possibility. Elias snapped. Enough. The man turned to him. You still lie to them like you did back then. Elias took an old compass from his pocket. The needle spun wildly. He muttered something like a prayer. The man in the brown coat laughed. You think a compass will save them? A needle is only another thing begging for direction. Here, every direction is hungry. Tong suddenly remembered something. In photographs from the mystery spot, tourists often laughed because they looked as if they were leaning. But what if someone stood perfectly straight? He looked at the man. The man stood straight, completely straight. His shadow fell upward onto the ceiling. Maya noticed it too. "You're not human," she whispered. The man turned slowly toward her. "I was, like all of you." Then he looked back at Tong. "Like you." Han's tape recorder made a sharp click. A new voice came out. Not Han's. Not the man's. Tong's. His own voice, but weaker and farther away. "I've been here before." Tong felt his blood turn cold. The voice on the tape continued. "I've gone down these stairs. I've met Han. I've believed I could save her." He stepped back. "No," the recorder said, "and every time I forget." Elias snatched the recorder, trying to turn it off. The old device burned hot and he dropped it. The tape kept rolling. Tong's recorded voice trembled. "If I can hear this again, it means I've reached the end of the tilt." Maya began to cry. "We have to get out." She ran toward the staircase. But the staircase was gone. In its place stood the door of the crooked cabin above ground. Outside the door, daylight shone. The tour group waited. Maya stared, horrified. It was the 440 tour. They were looking at themselves from earlier that day. Past Maya stood in front of the visitors, smiling. Past Tong raised his camera. The man in the brown coat waited at the back of the group. Then the doorway vanished. The staircase returned. Tong swayed and grabbed the wall. Han caught his shoulder. "Listen to me. It is showing you tilted pieces of time, so you will lose your direction. Don't look too long." "How many times have I been here?" Tong asked. Han did not answer. "Break time equals 0. 6s/. Han." She looked down. "I stopped counting." That answer struck harder than any explanation. Tong staggered to the crack in the stone floor that Han had described. The crack was narrow and black. A reverse wind breathed up from within. Tong knelt and shined his flashlight into it. The light disappeared. But something lay near the edge. An old Polaroid. He picked it up. The picture showed the mystery spot parking lot. A silver car had been crushed at the front. The windshield was shattered. The driver's door hung open. A smear of blood dragged across the pavement toward the trees. The date written at the bottom was October 31st, 2026. Tong looked at the date. Break time equals 0. 6s/. Today was October 31st, 2026. He turned the photograph over. A message was written in his own handwriting. "Do not drive home." A car horn blared from the crack. Tong fell backward. An image flashed in his mind, a memory that did not belong there. A dark mountain road. Fog. His phone vibrating on the passenger seat. A message from Lynn. A curve. Headlights rushing toward him. Brakes screaming. Then the sensation of his body being pulled violently left. Not struck by the vehicle. Pulled from the moment of impact by something in the trees. Tong clutched his head. "No, that hasn't happened yet." The man in the brown coat crouched in front of him. "Correct, and it already has. In here, that difference does not matter." Tong looked at Han. She was crying. "You knew." She nodded. The first time you came, you had not died yet. You only came to find me. But after you left, the accident happened. This place kept the moment before your death and pushed you back to the start of the day. Every time you return, you forget. Every time I try to warn you, you still come. Tong's voice shook. Why? Han looked at the crack. Because it needs someone who has not finished falling. The room began to shake. Not like an earthquake. Like something huge beneath them had turned in its sleep. Dust rose from the stone, but it did not fall back down. It gathered in small spirals around the plumb bob. Elias shouted, "It's awake!" Maya tried her radio again, but dozens of tourist voices overlapped through the speaker. "Look, the ball is rolling uphill. You're leaning. Take the picture. Does anyone else hear someone calling? Don't go down there. Don't look at the floor. Don't answer." The stone walls cracked. Gray light poured through the openings. It was not sunlight. It was the color of the sky 1 second before a crash. Tong looked into the crack. This time he saw what was beneath. Not a monster with claws. Not a ghost. Not a creature in any way people would understand. It was a void with shape. A dark region that made every straight line curve toward it. Dust, light, sound, memory. Everything leaned in its direction. Inside the darkness, Tong saw countless suspended moments. A man holding his daughter's hand on the wooden steps. A young woman falling inside the cabin but never touching the floor. A tourist taking a photograph and disappearing from his own image. Young Han leaning over a crack, calling her little brother's name. And Tong. Many versions of Tong. Tong at 10. Tong at 20. Tong from that morning. Tong with blood on his forehead, crawling from a silver car in the fog. All of them were falling. Not down. Not up. Toward the mystery spot. Han took his hand. "You have to go. What about you? I've held you long enough." "No. If you don't leave before the accident completes, it will use you as the new anchor. Then other people will hear your voice calling from under the floor." Tong looked at Elias. The old man lowered his head. "That is why I stayed. Every generation has someone who keeps the door." Maya whispered, "So you?" Elias nodded. "I died in 1989. Maya began to cry. Tong stepped back. "No, you're still here. You still talk to people." Elias smiled sadly. "Did you think every guide here was alive?" Maya stared at him. "Elias." He turned to her. "You are alive, Maya. That is why you must take him out." The room tilted again. This time everything was dragged toward the crack. Maya slipped. Tong caught her wrist. Elias threw the old compass to Tong. "Don't look at the needle. Look at the case. Whichever part no longer reflects your face, go that way." Tong did not understand, but there was no time. The old man walked toward the crack. Han shouted, "Elias, don't." Elias looked back. "Someone has to stand straight so the others can lean away." Then he stepped into the darkness. He did not fall. He did not vanish. He stretched thin, like a reflection disturbed on water. Wood thundered somewhere above them. The staircase reappeared. Maya pulled Tong. "Go!" Tong still held Han's hand. But she would not move. "Han!" She smiled. For the first time since she appeared, Her face became his sister's face again. Gentle, exhausted, full of love. "This time," she said, "don't come back." Tong tried to pull her with him. Her hand grew colder, lighter, as if it were made of smoke. "No. You have to come with me." Han placed the tape recorder in his palm. "I already left, Tong." "No. You just never let me fall." The sentence stopped him. The entire room seemed to hold its breath. Han whispered, "I did not disappear because this place kept me. I disappeared because you called me for too long." The final memory returned. Not the memory of the year Han disappeared. The memory of a 10-year-old boy. On the family trip to the mystery spot, Tong had wandered away from the group. He heard Han call his name behind the cabin. He slipped past a barrier and fell into a small hollow in the earth. It was not deep, but he was trapped. Terrified, he called for his sister. Han found him. She reached down to pull him out. The ground beneath her feet collapsed. Tong was pulled free by adults later. Han was not. Search teams looked for days, but no body was found. Tong had been too young, too frightened, too broken. His mind created a different memory. Han came home after the trip, changed, and disappeared weeks later. His parents never forced him to remember the truth. They let him keep the softer version. But the mystery spot remembered. The place did not only distort gravity. It distorted whatever people refused to accept. Tong collapsed to his knees. "It was me." Han knelt in front of him. "It was not your fault. I called you. You were my little brother. I pulled you down." "No," Han said. "I chose to reach for you." Tong sobbed without sound. Maya stood behind him, crying too, but still pulling at his shoulder. "We have to go." Han looked at Maya. "Get my brother out of here." Maya nodded. Tong wanted to say more. He wanted to apologize, hold her, undo everything. But for the first time in his life, he understood that some things pull harder the longer you try to hold them. He let go. Han smiled. The room shuddered. Maya dragged Tong up the stairs. Behind them, Han stood alone in the gray light. The metal plumb bob slowly turned. For the first time, it pointed toward the floor. And Han fell. No scream. No darkness swallowing her. Only a soft motion, like the last leaf finally releasing from a branch. Tong and Maya burst out through the hatch beneath the cabin. Outside, night had fallen. But not completely. There were lights near the ticket booth. Cars in the parking lot. The smell of coffee from the gift shop. The ordinary world still existed. Maya slammed the hatch shut and gasped for breath. "Are you okay?" Tong did not answer. He stared at the tape recorder in his hand. The tape had stopped. His phone read 6:12 p.m. He was alive. Maya led him through a side gate. "Where are you going now?" Tong looked toward the parking lot. His silver car waited under the trees. The Polaroid flashed in his mind. Open door. Shattered windshield. Blood dragged toward the forest. The message on the back. "Do not drive home." He swallowed. "I'll call a cab." Maya nodded. "Good. Don't drive." He looked at her. "Will you tell anyone?" Maya gave a bitter smile. Who would believe me? Neither of them spoke. They both looked back toward the crooked cabin. Elias would not return. Before Tong left, Maya handed him an old envelope. Elias told me to give you this if you got out. Tong opened it. Inside was a photograph. His family at the mystery spot many years earlier. His father. His mother. Han. Tong at 10. In the photo, Han had a hand on his shoulder. She was smiling. But behind them, in the shadow under the porch, a man watched. A brown coat. A wooden cane. Tong turned the photo over. Elias had written a note. Not everyone held here wants to harm the living, but the thing below always wants more weight. Tong folded the photo. He called a cab. While he waited, his phone vibrated. A message from Lin. Where are you? Tong stared at it for a long time. Then he replied, I just saw Han. A few seconds later, Lin answered. Tong, who is Han? He went cold. He called her. This time she answered. Her voice sounded sleepy, as if he had woken her. Tong? What's wrong? You texted me yesterday. Texted what? About the mystery spot. About Han. The line went quiet. Tong, Lin said carefully. We broke up 2 years ago. I haven't texted you anything. Tong opened their messages. They were gone. The entire conversation with Lin had disappeared. Only one new message remained, from an unknown number. No name. No area code. Just one sentence. Thank you for giving her back to gravity. The cab arrived. Tong got in. He did not look back at the mystery spot. As the car pulled away, the driver's radio crackled. Static. Then Elias's voice came through. You did well. Tong froze. The driver did not react. Elias continued. But remember this. A place that loses its gatekeeper will find another. Tong looked into the rearview mirror. The crooked cabin had disappeared behind the redwoods. But in the mirror, he saw himself standing at the mystery spot gate. Not the Tong inside the cab. Another Tong. Blood wet on his forehead. Eyes wide. Mouth moving without sound. The cab rounded a curve. The image vanished. 3 days later, Tong woke in his apartment in San Jose. He did not remember how he got home. The old tape recorder sat on his desk. Beside it was his camera's memory card. He did not want to watch the footage. But a YouTuber who makes a living chasing answers will always lose to curiosity. Tong inserted the card into his computer. There was only one video file. Tour_440_final. He opened it. The video began with Tong standing near the mystery spot entrance. Hey everyone. Today we're visiting one of the strangest places in California. He fast-forwarded. The tour. The crooked cabin. Maya explaining the demonstrations. The man in the brown coat. Everything was exactly as he remembered. Then came the footage after closing. Blackness. Footsteps. The staircase under the cabin. The stone room. Han. Tong began to cry when he saw her on the screen. But when the video reached the moment where Han said, I already left, Tong. The image broke apart. The screen cut to something else. A scene Tong did not remember recording. The mystery spot parking lot at night. The camera lay on the ground at an angle. Tong's silver car idled nearby. The driver's door stood open. A man emerged from the trees. Brown coat. Wooden cane. He placed something on the driver's seat. The old tape recorder. Then he bent down and looked straight into the camera. But his face was no longer the face of the man from the tour. It was Tong's face. Older. Hollow-eyed. Gray at the temples. The tired face of someone who had been waiting for many years. He spoke into the camera. This time, don't forget. The video ended. Tong sat motionless before the screen. In the quiet apartment, the old tape recorder turned on by itself. The tape moved. Static. Then Maya's voice came out. Not the Maya from that day. An older Maya. Hoarse. Exhausted. Tong, if you can hear this, please don't come back. Tong gripped the edge of his desk. The tape continued. After you left, the cabin tilted 3 more degrees. Visitors started hearing a woman's voice under the floor. A week later, someone disappeared. Tong gasped. No! Maya's recorded voice trembled. I think it's using Han's voice. Wind struck the apartment window. On the computer screen, the video file renamed itself. Tour_440_final became Tour_440_001. Tong stared at the number. 001. Not the end. The beginning. His phone buzzed. A new email. No subject. Sender, the mystery spot. The message contained only one line. Your tour starts at 4:40 p.m. Tong backed away. He moved to delete the email. But the cursor began to move on its own. Slowly. Carefully. Clicked the ticket link. A QR code appeared. Beneath it was the guest name. Tong Tran. Tour date. October 31st, 2026. Tour time. 4:40 p.m. Tong looked up at the wall clock. The hands pointed to 4:40. The floor beneath his feet tilted. Only slightly. Just enough for a pen on his desk to roll uphill toward the computer screen. Tong stood, staggering, and grabbed the chair. From the computer speakers, Han's voice came through. Soft. Distant. You gave me back to gravity. Then her voice dropped lower. But you still haven't given yourself back. Tong looked down at his shadow. It was not beneath his feet. It stretched toward the wall. As if something in the apartment, far away and impossibly close, were pulling him toward a direction that did not exist. The tape recorder reached its final seconds. Another voice came through. Not Han. Not Maya. Not Elias. It was hundreds of voices layered together, whispering from somewhere deep beneath the world. Welcome to the mystery spot. Tong closed his eyes. And for the first time, he understood the most terrifying thing about that place. It was not that gravity could not be explained. It was that gravity had been explained all along. People simply refused to believe the explanation. At the mystery spot, everything falls. Some people fall into the past. Some fall into memory. Some fall into regret. And some, like Tong, fall forever into the very moment they thought they had escaped. That night, Tong's apartment in San Jose was found empty. No signs of forced entry. No blood. No struggle. Only the old tape recorder lying on the floor. Beside it was a torn tour ticket and one new Polaroid. It showed the crooked cabin at the mystery spot. A group of tourists laughed on the porch. Maya stood beside them, young again, pointing toward a ball rolling uphill. At the far left edge of the photo, under the shadow of the roof, a man stood motionless. A brown coat, a wooden cane, a face tilted in darkness. But if anyone looked long enough, they would recognize him. Break time equals 0. Success /. It was Tong. On the back of the photograph, one sentence had been written. The next tour begins at 4:40. Don't be late. If the story pulled you into the wrong direction, leave a like before the floor tilts again. Subscribe to the channel for more true location horror stories, urban legends, and mysteries that refuse to stay buried. And tell me in the comments, if you heard someone you loved calling from under the floor, would you answer or would you run?